There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino is the name. Hey, yo, what's going on right now? You're watching Casino is the name. And in this video, well, the concept of this video was about financial awakeness. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to say it. Financial awakeness was what the idea or the concept that I had when deciding to make this video. But I realized that I can't actually tell that part without telling another part. And it could have really been 2 separate videos for this, but I mean, I can't tell one side without telling the other side. So here we go. All right. So I recently kind of had a financial awakeness, but the way I got there was through my mom's ancestry DNA test. Now, I already knew that I'm mixed race. I'm black and white. And my dad is black. My mom is more on the whiter side of things. And so we recently did her ancestral DNA test, and it revealed a lot of things that I already kind of knew. We already kind of knew. But there were at least two surprises for me that were on her ancestral DNA test. One was that we were part of the Basque people, which is a whole nother, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what Basque people were. But that's a whole separate thing altogether. That's not the focus of this, but we're part Basque people. Now, whether or not it's Nigeria or the Bantu people or the Congo or anything like that, I always, when I see that I have a lineage to something, I always research it. So I research the Basque people the same way. If I know, then I learn about the culture. I would love to go to, Cameroon and, just to see where my ancestors came from, like anything that I know that's where I descended from. I'm interested in it. And the Basque people was one. Like I said, I've been researching that, but there was another surprise. I had 2 surprises. One was that we were part Basque people, and 2, that my mom is in fact Jewish. And so that was a bit of a surprise. Now, I didn't know a lot about the Jewish people. Just didn't know a lot about Jewish people. You always hear that they got money and stuff like that. But that was about it. This is as far as I know, And so to see that, I descended from the Jews, then, it was like, wow, that's surprising. So, but like I said, I didn't know a whole lot. So just like anything else that I know that I descended from, I research, I, try to learn, what religion they had, what languages they spoke, things like that. Just things about them, like what area on the map did most of these people come from? What did they go through? Things like that. And so to see that I descended from the Jews, or that we're Jewish, in part, it was just a surprise, right? And so I started learning about the Jewish people, and I discovered, so I guess it connected to my inner thoughts, or like my inner self, as far as I'm primarily teaching about financial literacy and things like that. And so everybody knows that the Jews, well, it's a stigma that they have that they are a very, very, very wealthy community. And when I learned about why they tend to be wealthy and things like that, it made it made so much sense to me. It was surprising. Like, because what was happening was, I've been seeing a lot of things. I'm an accountant. My sister's a lawyer, which is also crazy, right? My mom had a lawyer and an accountant for children. And of course, those are two of the main like career fields in that culture. And so I was just thinking like to myself, this is before the ancestry test and all of that. This is before I learned anything about the Jewish people. I'm already, because I've done so many different businesses, I've done so many different types of investments, I've just seen so many different things, and then I'm an accountant, right? So I'm always analyzing and always running the numbers and things like that, and thinking about just things on a large scale, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future, things like that. So I was already telling my inner circle, hey, I'm thinking about doing this because, now that I know all of these things about money and things like that, I think these things would be better suited for me personally. Like me, I think this makes more sense to me, right? So then the test comes and, I'm learning about all of the different cultures. And the only two that I was kind of new to me was the Basque people and the fact that we were, in fact, Jewish. So it made me start, learning about the Basque people. I'm learning about them at the same time. But the things that I learned about the Jewish business model or their concepts of money and the things that they invest in and things like that, they connected to me. It was like me reading for confirmation on the things that I was looking at, but I still wasn't entirely like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is how we're supposed to be investing, or this is, the same kind of mentality. So I didn't have that like a concrete thing, but it was a thought, right? Like, I wonder if this is what direction I'm supposed to be headed. But once I read what they went through and then how they perceive money and investments now and things like that, it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was thinking about, right? And I mean, of course, there's like a multitude of things and stuff like that, but like, it was like, man, this is crazy. This is exactly what I was feeling. So it was kind of like an awakening where now when I go back to my inner circle and I'm having this conversation, I'm like, oh, check this out. I was right, because look at this, read this and read why they do this and they do that. Now we're not just saying this. So I know now I'm on the right track, So it was definitely an awakening, especially because it wasn't just like I read some things and it was like, okay, this is what they do, but I understand why they do them. That's why it was like an awakening in self, Pause. I don't, but yeah, so like I knew I was on the right track. And so it's crazy how much, like just like when people ask me, how did I get to where I am? Like, how did I, because I'm from the bottom. I came from, the poorest neighborhood in the state of Florida, 32304 in Tallahassee. Like, Tallahassee is not the poorest city in the state, but it is the poorest, 32304 is the poorest neighborhood. You can Google it. Poorest neighborhood in Florida, Google 32304 poor neighborhood, you'll see, right? So that's why I got my middle school and high school education. That's why I became a man. That's why I lived for many, many years. My mom lived there for many, many years. That was my psychology. That was my education. It came from there, which is a poor education, So, and at the time, of course, we don't know. We think everywhere else must be similar, to where we are. But that this is where I learned how to live in the world and how to invest and what to spend money on. It's a terrible, terrible place to learn those things, right? But I still was able to transition out of that to become this, right? To get to here. And there's very few of us from my environment that made it to So when people ask me from where I'm from, how did I make the change? How did I just switch it? Which, of course, I didn't just switch it. It wasn't like a light that just flipped on or flipped off. It took many, many years of self-education, asking questions, being driven, never settling. It took determination. It took effort for me to get to this point. But at each turn, I was discovering things, but I wasn't looking for them. So I wasn't looking for any kind of financial awakening. I just kind of discovered it, right? Like I just kind of, my mom ancestral DNA test comes back and we Jewish. And I said, okay, well, let me look into this. Anybody can study successful people, right? Anybody can study successful investors. Warren Buffett's one of my favorite, bar none. He's my favorite investor. Is Warren Buffett. Boring old guy, but he's my favorite investor. But anybody can study him. Anybody, we can learn so much by studying things from people or successful people. And I just kind of happenstance to fall on that. Pause. So it wasn't by any like desire to discover this stuff, So when people ask me, how did I get to this point or how did I get here? I can never tell you how, because there's no formula that I can give you. There's no formula that I can give you for things to just align. It's life. It's life. I mean, stay curious. Stay open-minded. Put the work in. I don't know no way to tell people how to get, to get to this point. And when people tell people, I could tell you exactly how to, maybe they can help streamline your life, but how to change your mentality, man, they gotta be, I don't know how to do that. When people have a certain kind of mentality, nothing that I can say is gonna change that mentality. When I had a certain mentality, there was nothing you could say that would change that mentality. People have asked me, what would I have told my younger self that I know, like what could the person who I am now have told my younger self? When I was in Tallahassee, when I was 19, 18, 17, there is nothing that my current self, with all the stuff that I know about now, there's nothing that my current self could have said to that kid. That kid wasn't listening. That kid thought he knew everything. That kid was like, listen, you going back to your big house in Atlanta. I'm down here in Florida in these apartments. I'm fighting every day, and when I go to school, I gotta walk through the projects. I'm hustling. That kid couldn't hear this because we don't live in the same world. So it's out of sight, out of mind. That kid needed to be who he was in that environment. And so when I think about other people, how am I supposed to get through to people when they not, they got to come seeking it. That's why I do these videos. People watching these videos, that mean they're looking for improvement. They're interested in what's going on. They're interested. Anyway, I just want to come on here and say that, Right now you're watching Casino is the name. If you find any value in these videos whatsoever, just know it's all for you. Please share, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we out. There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino is the name.